Hello, family, and welcome to another episode of Role Model Experts Cafe. I'm your host, Dr. El, the Parent Whisperer, and today with me, I have an amazing lady. I loved how she showed up in our community. I love her energy. Her name is Liz with Raising Flora. Liz, thank you and welcome to our show. I really appreciate our audience members being here, but I really appreciate the fact that you've taken time out of your busy day to be here with us. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and how you got involved doing it?
Sure. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be with all of you today and to have this conversation with you, Dr. L. I'm very excited about it. So, my name is Liz. I have a business called Raising Flora. I help moms be prepared, feel confident, and show up with compassion for their tweens' first periods. I would say that I got involved with this work probably from my very own first period and just my own experience, and feeling that like little bit of a zing in me that was like, oh, this is something new in my life. And I started tracking my cycle very young, as a lot of people do, just to understand when was my next period going to come. But then I also started noticing other things about my cycle and my journey through my cycle each month as I was growing up. And I also experienced a lot of the really typical cultural shame and taboo around periods that we all experience, and feeling like I couldn't tell people about it. I had to skip swim class and say that I was sick because I didn't know how to use tampons yet in middle school. So, really basic experience that I think so many people share. So, my early experiences were very personal. And as I grew up and had some negative experiences with birth control pills, feeling really flat, feeling not myself, and then relearning my cycle when I came off of those, and like really falling in love with that seasonal experience of the ups and downs of my cycle. My journey has also been really professional in that I have led organizations and businesses focused on women's equity, focused on youth development, and kind of putting all of that together. Really, I wanted to focus on how do we give girls in our lives a really healthy, positive start with their cycle. There's just one anecdote I want to share with you. And I was at a team building activity with staff. This is maybe, I don't know, 6 or 10 years ago at this point, and is the kind of activity where one person stands in the middle of the room and makes a statement, and everybody else in the room stands as close to them as how much they agree with that statement. Many people have done activities like that.
Mhm.
So some people say things a little bit more shallow, some people say things a little bit deeper. One person stood up and said, I hate my period. And everybody but me could not have stood closer to her. Like people just hugged her. And I took a moment and looked around and thought, what if we didn't hate ourselves?
Right.
Wow, this is normal. So, number one, I put myself on a mission then. Like, I am going to be part of this movement that is about normalizing our periods. And two, the more I reconnected with my own cycle and experience, and the more I learned about how much our cycle informs our health and teaches us, the more I just knew this was my life calling, really, for the second half of my life. And so, as my daughter was approaching her first period, and as I'm in my own perimenopause journey, really my personal passion and my professional expertise kind of all came together to create Raising Flora, because it's time that we give our daughters a healthy, positive, meaningful experience, and that we really take on this group project of shifting our culture about how we see menstruation and our bodies.
Well, Liz, thank you so much for doing that. I actually had a personal account. I had a close friend of mine in college that she had a real difficult time embracing her femininity. And as a result, it was impacting her relationships and being able to have deeper relationships. And when she noticed it, the blossoming occurred. And I'm a big proponent of removing the shame and stigma that oftentimes has to do with cultural, historical, or sometimes even religious backgrounds that have nothing to do with the anatomical and really the physical human journey that we go through in our lifetimes, basically, male and female. So really happy that you are bringing that light into this area, basically. And yes, like you said, it doesn't start just when you have your cycles, but then it continues on throughout life. So it's important to know that we are connected, that we can be together, support and embrace each other's, sexual cycles and everything like that. So that's very, very important. So that being the case, and I'm assuming that what we encounter is when it comes to moms, and it's not just moms, because I know that there are dads that also don't want to go near the feminine issues, and nevertheless, it's important even for spouses, right? So it is important for us to be able to discuss, to be able to support. So where is an entry point for this? Is this something that you prepare for? Is this something that you react to after they come to you? What's a good way of dealing with this?
Yeah, so I would say that both things happen. There are some people who come to me and they're like, oh my God, I'm dreading that my daughter's first period is coming. I know puberty is coming. And, fill in the blank. I had a wonderful experience. I had a horrible experience. And I just don't want my daughter to have that same experience, or I want to do better for my daughter. So there are people who are preparing and they're thinking ahead. And then there are a lot of people that don't realize that we're really talking about how we support our tweens through their first couple years of cycling. It can take 2 to 5 years to really get into a regular rhythm in their body. And so I like to talk about it as there is one singular first period, and we want that to be a healthy, meaningful, positive experience.
Mhm.
But after that comes a few years of parental coaching and some very intimate moments with your tween as they're learning their body and figuring all of that out. And so oftentimes we don't realize that so many questions are going to come from our daughter after she's starting to have experiences, and then wondering what else is happening in her body. And the more we can have a parental mindset that understands that our daughter's experience is going to be her own experience, that it's not ours, that we take a deep breath and figure out as parents how to be intentional and compassionate and allow and support an experience that feels really good for our daughter, the better off we'll be. The more we can normalize in our households, in our families, periods happen, we have a whole cycle. It's not just how do we manage the days that we bleed, but understanding we have a rhythm like all humans do, our circadian rhythm throughout our day, our cyclical rhythm throughout our seasons, that part of feeling different on different days is normal, and we can learn from that. And then we can also get ready, which is having conversations with our tweens. What's meaningful for you? How do you want to mark this moment? What questions do you have? And you can work together, or you can surprise your daughter with a very special first period kit. You can figure out in your family how you want to mark the moment.
Okay. What are some of the challenges that you see people come to you with on this, both on the parent side as well as on the kid side, because eventually they're
Yeah.
a party to this as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think one of the challenges is that we have not been taught very well why this is actually meaningful and important. We can sort of blow it off like, I'm sure my daughter will be fine. I was fine. Everybody is just fine. But we tend to then not be as open. And so we all need the reminders that our periods, our menstrual cycle is our fifth vital sign, that we learn things about our body from the health of our menstrual cycle, that our daughters need to understand how their body works, and they need to understand their reproductive health, both like physically the body parts, hormonally what's happening, and how those hormones are impacting our moods and our energy and our psychology throughout a given cycle, the same way we would talk about another complicated system in our body, like our knee or our digestive system or our mental health. And so we need to understand just how things work. And we also need to understand that first periods are really meaningful. Everybody that I talk to who has had a period, when I say this is what I do, people are like, oh, let me tell you my story. And it's beautiful because we don't talk about that enough. We don't create community around this the way we really need to. So we don't have all the stories to tell of the tweens and teens in our life. We really need that. But everybody has a memorable story. And we need to know that we are part of, as adults in a tween's life, we're part of creating that story for them. And we can help shape what that story is going to be and shape their experience with their menstrual cycle that they're going to have for decades. And if we have an opportunity in those first couple of years of their cycle to help that be a really good experience, then how beautiful is that? And the flip side is true as well. So having really early negative experiences, feeling that cultural shame, having to hide, feeling like you're not sure what to do, or your whole experience has been ignored, that really can lead to negative consequences, like a lack of agency in sexual decision making, objectifying your own body, disordered eating. And so there's like the upside is really big, and the downside are all things that we don't want our tweens and teens to experience. So I think that hurdle is like what we're doing right now, just educating people, because we have forgotten that this is important and that it deserves care and attention for the girls in our lives.
Absolutely. Actually, I was thinking this is really the beginning of a series of dialogues, because first is this, but then there is others. So I have a question. Would you say that this should come before sex education or at the same time or after, or is there like any sequence to these things? Because naturally, if you start understanding this process, then you're going to have more questions, or the kids will have more questions, right? So where do we fit this in?
Yeah, so I think there's no bad time to talk about this. And I think it is really ideal that in our families, we normalize menstruation throughout our kids' whole lives. And that just means, older cousins, older siblings, moms, other people who are menstruating are like not hiding their pads or their cups, whatever their period products are, that they're just like out and available. And people are saying, oh, today is my day one. I need a little bit of a rest. And you can say that to your toddler. You can say that to your school age child. You can say that to your teenager. So the more we just show up that this is normal and it is something that so many of us experience, that's huge. So that then when we get to having conversations, it's not a big, let me sit down and let's talk about periods. It's more of like, hey, this is going to happen for you sometime in the next year or two. So I think really ideal for parents of 9 to 12-year-olds are having more concerted conversations, more teaching, offering resources, books, guides, etc. And I do think it's actually really helpful for all of us to understand our own body before we, as we're growing up, and then to understand our sexuality, and then to understand that in connection to other people. But the more that our girls are really solid in their own body and understanding themselves, I think the more solid those other conversations about sexuality and choices and how they want to grow up and who they want to be as a person, they're more solid.
Absolutely. It totally makes sense. When you put it like that, why aren't we all doing this?
Why aren't we all doing this? That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Very cool. All right. So you've already given a lot of pointers and suggestions, but what would be the one tip that you would have for our audience members, and so that they can implement that basically right after this?
Yeah. So I think the one tip for today is to practice your parental mindset and to just take a deep breath and remember that your experience is your experience and that your child's experience is going to be your child's experience. And Like, that's good for any of us that are parenting at any age. But I think that first periods, and particularly for moms who've had that experience, so much comes back up. And
Mm,
it's important to just take a very intentional mindset moment and remember that we had our own experience and our daughter is going to get to have her experience, and that we can offer something to her when we are very self-aware and we have an intentional, calm, confident mindset as a parent. So I would say that is something that all of us could do right now after we finish this video, is just close your eyes, take a deep breath, and remember that self-awareness approach to parenting. That's so important, and especially important in this moment.
absolutely. I love it. So what are some of the ways that are, because I know that this is a sensitive topic and not everybody might be at liberty to discuss it out with the community. But if somebody wanted to connect you with other people that might be experiencing this, or they want to connect with you, what would be a good way of connecting with you and following you and getting more information?
Yeah, so the best way to find information is to go to my website, which is raisingflora.com. There's a contact form there where people can reach out with a question, and there's a way to schedule a cup of tea. And we can just have a virtual cup of tea, which I would invite everybody to do and encourage you to get in touch.
Love it. I love it. Just out of curiosity, tell us a little bit about Raising Flora. Why the name?
Oh, raising Flora. Well, for a number of different reasons. Flora is our Roman goddess of springtime, and that's where our tweens are in their life. They're in a springtime of their life. I like saying the sounds. There is something about the flow of the words that, like, I want to say it all the time, every day. And this idea of Flora, we're all so diverse and beautiful in our own way. And if we think about all of our tweens and teens as flowers, succulents, evergreens, dahlias, poppies, we can see the care and the nurturing that we can offer, and then the growth that comes from that. So for so many reasons, it all came together really beautifully.
Awesome. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Guys, I have put all the details and information that I have on Liz in the description of this video. One of the things that I highly encourage you to do is role model the behavior of reaching out for help, showing the kids that we are not always the people that have the answers, but the world is filled with people who are well-intentioned and want to support us, and it's okay to ask for help. So definitely connect with Liz, take advantage of the information and the invitation that she has made. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, make sure that you do, so that you get notifications on all the experts that come here, sharing their expertise and their gifts. And Liz, thank you again for coming here and shedding light on this really sensitive and important topic. Any final words before we finish today?
Thank you so much. And thank you for, again, saying how important and how sensitive it is. Together, as we build community, we actually can move this forward in a way that's really helpful to our next generation. So excited to be here with you today. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. This is an important part of accepting ourselves as who we are, and this is foundational. So thank you for what you do. Until next time. Cheers.
Thank you.